Good afternoon, everybody. We'll be going through the investor presentation today on EMP Metals Corp. Just a forward-looking statement here, standard disclaimer before we get into the presentation content. Okay, so EMP Metals, who are we? We are a lithium brine development company positioned in southeast Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan itself boasts one of the most attractive mining jurisdictions, third most worldwide and #1 in Canada. And with that, again, being positioned there in the southeast part of the province, we have good access to many North American markets, call it, across Canada and into the USA as well. So Hub City Lithium is a name that you may see on throughout some of the presentation or some of our prior work. Hub City is now 100% owned by EMP Metals. There was a prior joint venture with Rock Resources and EMP that formed that Hub City company. But just recently here in August, EMP Metals acquired 100% of that asset, and Rock is now converted into a 17% shareholder of EMP. So in total, we have over 200,000 acres of land in the southeast part of the province, representing 90% of that is Crown and 10% freehold. And in total, we have 1.2 million tons of inferred resource at 143 milligrams per liter across our two properties at MANSUR and View Field. So continuing on with Saskatchewan and the advantage of our brine resource, again, the reservoir is regionally extensive across our project area, and we are fortunate to have a high concentration, 143 milligram per liter average, again, almost double when you compare across some of the other Canadian-based projects. But we have discovered the highest concentration to date, upwards of 259 milligram per liter. It's one of our test wells in the View Field area. So with that as well, again, when we look at capex and opex, again, higher concentration is just leading to less fluid that we need to move in order to hit our desired tonnage. And then another major contributor to some of the lower capex, opex estimates that we are seeing is the absence of H2S and oil. Not having these typical oil field brine contamination in our reservoir can lead to some significant capex, opex savings. Just talking about, some scale, as well as looking at or in discussion with some of our industry partners, depending on scale of the operation, that capex, opex could result in about a 10 or a 20 to 40% cost savings just by not having those major contaminants to remove prior to DLE. Also have low contamination in some of the other problematic ions as well, so iron, silica, and minimal organics in the brine as well. And then when we look at our drilling depths, relatively shallow at 1,800 meters, again, in comparison to some of the other North American projects. Continuing on here with, again, our Saskatchewan advantage, we have the luxury of developing this resource right in the heart of an existing and operating oil field. So the Bakken oil field has been in production for about 50 years. And so with that, brings a ton of existing infrastructure right to the doorstep of this facility. So this map we're looking at here, all those lines and circles you see on the map, those are existing or previously operating oil and gas wells in our direct project area. So the red box is actually the View Field PEA outline, which we'll get into in some further maps here later in the presentation. But again, with this existing infrastructure that's in place, it brings good access to rail, paved highways, good grid road infrastructure. We've got power, gas running through the entire project area as well already. And then also close by, we've got city centers of Weyburn and Estevan, bringing all of the oil and gas related service businesses as well that have been providing support to the existing oil field for the last 50 years. Because this process And a DLE brine project is so similar to oil and gas. We get to leverage, all the existing expertise, knowledge, and service businesses to help continue to develop this project. From a freshwater usage as well, 90% of our water can be recovered during the refining process, and we are targeting some brackish water sources and conditioning that brackish water for processed water through the use of RO. So we're not having to compete with local landowners or any surface water on these initial stage projects. DLE in general as well, fairly minimal surface impact. Again, everything staying within pipelines and vessels allows us to not have any surface brine ponds or tailing ponds stored at the site. As well, when we look at the Saskatchewan landscape, very flat, unobstructed farmland. And again, with the oil and gas operations that have been going on for 50 years now in the province, the landowners are very easy to work with in terms of gaining access for surface leases, just being used to the infrastructure requirements for a project such as this. As well, we continue to be engaged on both the rural municipality side as well as with the provincial government. And then our partners at Rock Resources, who have been operating in the province for over 30 years, continue to allow those relationships to continue with the provincial government. To talk about some other strategic relationships we have with the project, Tembo Capital is one of our financial providers. They are a private equity fund based out of London, UK. They came to us after a fairly extensive 9-month due diligence process and acquired a 19.9% equity interest. They continue to add a lot of value, adding a board member in Craig Foggo to the team, just to help provide guidance as we continue to advance and develop the project. Rock Resources, that I've mentioned them a few times, but they were one of the initial JV partners that identified the opportunity for lithium here in Saskatchewan. They have a 30+ year history as an oil and gas producer and are subsurface experts doing the majority of our geological and subsurface work. And again, they're at a 17.5% equity interest, a 2-year escrow period on the shares that were just converted here in August on 50% of those, and then the remaining 50% with a 3-year escrow period. So they continue to be invested in this project and are with us for the long term. Looking at our DLE vendors, again, we've decided to work with who we feel are the 2 top DLE providers in North America today. That's Koch Technologies and Iliad Technologies, or the ESM process. So we've successfully completed 2 extended pilot programs with each of those companies and are currently assessing performance and other key metrics as we look to make a decision on who that DLE vendor is going to be in our flow sheet. And then the last vendor here is Saltworks. They continue to support us in a number of ways on this project. And again, leveraging the experience that they have located out in BC and the water treatment expertise that they have has been critical to ensuring success in our project. And so Saltworks has sort of filled the downstream refining piece. They take the fluid after DLE and then convert into battery grade products. And again, we've successfully converted brine from our resource here in Saskatchewan through both the Koch and the ESM process, and then Saltworks has converted that into a battery grade lithium carbonate. Shifting gears here and focusing more on the land holdings that we have. Again, MANSUR and View Field are our 2 main priorities today as we continue to further develop and identify and confirm resource concentrations. And so we've got 2 wells in MANSUR. Again, looking at some of the prior concentrations, anywhere from that first well at 96 milligram per liter up to that MANSUR number 2 well at 148 in the Weimark Sea. So we have since added an additional well, so the number 3 well down to the southern part of the province. Drilling just completed a few days ago, actually, and we're moving into our brine collection and sampling programs. So we should expect to see results here probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks for confirmed concentrations here at the southern part of MANSUR. Moving over to our View Field property, this really has been the main focus of our project development, mainly due to the high concentrations that we have found here in the View Field 1 well and the View Field 2 well. So again, 259 milligram per liter is the highest recorded from brine concentration standpoint. So pretty proud of the team and that accomplishment that we've been able to add that well. We did a larger step out well, so the View Field number 3 up to the north. That was done here this past summer. Again, just looking to confirm concentrations around across a larger land base. And again, seeing tests upwards of 157 milligrams per liter up in the northern part of View Field. Again, which just brings confidence that this resource continues to be very contiguous across the entire land base. We did add a View Field number 4, that 4B23, which is the first horizontal well, drilled basically right beside that 4A of 23 off the same pad. But it was a 1 mile horizontal well. And so to our knowledge, this is the first horizontal well into the Dupereau for lithium production. So we are just working through some initial flow testing programs and getting ready to fire up that well here once approvals come through from the government to start flow testing and then sampling concentration data from that horizontal well. So when we're looking at our overall development plan for the PEA, again, this was built specifically on the View Field property. Again, leveraging those high concentration zones as sort of the basis for the economic assessment. And so what this looks like when we look at our View Field land base, we are anticipating on putting 5 different sites throughout the View Field area. Each of those sites is going to have a DLE hub on them, producing about 12,000 cubic meters per day of brine flow through DLE. There'll be 2 concentrate and downstream refine conversion facilities selected for 2 of these sites specifically. And then any site that doesn't have that back-end conversion would have pipelines that would bring fluid after DLE into the CRC facility. We're anticipating a total of 36 multi-leg horizontal wells, 30 vertical disposal wells, and really targeting for those first 7 years of production, just under 19,000 tons per year of battery-grade lithium carbonate. 23-year average of the entire project is just over 12,000 tons. And again, largely due to those horizontal wells that we're utilizing for the subsurface strategy. So for years 1 to 7, again, we're going to be targeting those high concentration zones first. And then as the project continues to produce, we'll be then moving to the lower grade zones in future years, again, resulting in that drop of tonnage for a 12,000 ton per year average over the project life. One note here as well, when we look at our PEA land base, this only represents 14% of our total land holdings to date. So again, lots of room for further expansion throughout the View Field area, as well as when we consider MANSUR and Tyven as well, aren't considered in any of these numbers. Let's take a quick look at some of the economic highlights from the PEA. So again, I mentioned 12,000 ton per year average with a 23-year project life. Total cap costs are $570 million US with an average annual operating cost of $40 million. We did use a flat price deck of $20,000 per ton to run the economics. And again, representing an NPV8 of just under 1.5 billion, cash operating costs of 3,300 per ton, pre-tax internal rate of return, 55%, and a 2.1 year payback period. And again, where we get really excited when we're looking at some of these numbers is really those first 7 years, where we can, again, leverage those high concentration zones and really drive the economics of the project. So again, when we look at just those first 7 years alone, some of those specific highlights, again, 19,000 tons per year, a very low OPEX, which we feel is very competitive globally for brine-based projects today. $2,300 per ton US on the OPEX. And again, an average concentration leveraging those high grade zones at 184 milligrams per liter. Just taking a look at a quick sensitivity analysis. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but again, the biggest contributor to some of the variance we could see is price. And again, we're utilizing that 20,000 per ton. We do feel that that is a fairly conservative long-term price estimate. A lot of analysts today would say that they see prices creeping back up and stabilizing around that $20,000 per ton range. So again, plus or minus 20% was run on the base case scenarios for all the different variables. And again, the one that you're seeing the biggest impact there is price, adjusting the MPV8. And then on the IRR, both price and capex are showing to have the biggest impacts to the overall base economics. So what's next for us? Again, the PEA is a fairly large scale, large tonnage project. Again, 5 distinct sites. So to say that we're going to develop that all as the initial first project for the Viewfield area, we're really looking to take a smaller bite-sized piece and what could essentially be, again, the first module or the first site, which would then be copied and pasted throughout the Viewfield area to make up the remaining tonnage. So this first commercial plant that we are in development on is 3,000 tons per year. Again, when I say development, I mean just purely on the engineering side. So we're completing advanced engineering, front-end engineering and design for this 3,000 ton per year battery grade lithium carbonate refinery. We'll be located at our 4 of 23 location, where we've got that first horizontal well and some additional well infrastructure available to us to develop this site. Again, this refinery really becomes the initial building block for the rest of our development plans. And also too, when we consider other properties that we own, so MANSUR and Taiwan, again, a very similar strategy would be deployed. Once we fill out the Viewfield area, we can then continue further expansion out into the other project areas. Currently estimating this refinery at 3,000 ton per year to be around 160 million US. And we're further defining these numbers to a plus or minus 15% capex, opex throughout our front end engineering and design, which is expected to be wrapped up by the end of 2024. So we're also talking about other incremental steps before we get to that 3,000 ton per year facility. And so discussions around a demonstration plant are also underway today. We're really looking at this as an additional de-risking step before taking it all the way to a 3,000 ton per year lithium carbonate facility. We've, again, initially done some initial flow numbers, anticipating roughly 150 ton per year demo plant from a sizing perspective, but also allow us to also consider larger ton per year demo plants, just depending where the economics fall. Today, that picture in the top left is what we currently have as a new site facility at our 4 of 23 location. We have some existing, again, the existing horizontal well is in place. We have our other vertical well in place, and then we have some injection wells as well that are nearby that project area. So we really have all of the subsurface infrastructure in place today to allow this demo plant to be built and operated. We just really need to frame in what the surface equipment and the refining equipment is going to look like. Estimating this right now anywhere from $10 to $15 million capex, and again, to be further defined as we nail in that scope on how big of a demonstration plant we would like to pursue. Just taking a quick look throughout our 2024 work plans and status. Again, accomplished a lot of work over the course of this year, a lot of detailed engineering work, pilot study work, as well as the PEA coming out earlier this year. So really proud of all of the work that we were able to accomplish and also quickly accomplish as well. Just again, given the small nature of our team, as well as the technical abilities that we have through both EMP and our partners at Rock Resources, as well as all of the different vendors that we interact with on a daily or weekly basis. So just to recap here, 2024 work plans. Again, the PA came out earlier in January and complete. Front-end engineering and design work kicked off in Q1. Again, we are fully anticipate that to be completed by the end of this year. We built, assembled, and operated a coke DLE pilot plant in Estevan, Saskatchewan. Again, that was the first time a coke DLE pilot unit was in Canada for operation. And then we worked after that program was wrapped up here in June of 24. We then put our focus and attention into our summer drilling programs. So those summer drilling programs, again, we completed 2 vertical test wells. That second well, again, is just going to be completed, was just completed here last week. That was the South MANSUR well. We drilled the North View Field well. That all those well results are available today and posted on the website. And then we also drilled and completed that horizontal high flow test well at the 4 of 23 location, and we're just gearing up for the initial flow testing program to start here shortly. With that flow testing program, we'll also be testing disposal and injectivity of the reservoir as well to complete our overall subsurface data collection. And then Q4, again, we'll be continuing on with our field development programs to finalize those hopefully before the end of the year with all the data we're looking to acquire, and then also completing that stage 1 engineering and design for that 3,000 ton per year facility. Taking a more zoomed out look at just the land base in Saskatchewan, there's been some activity this year and things to note as well. So when we look at the land position and where EMP is currently sitting, again, Hub City or EMP is the land owner in the dark blue. We've got Arizona Lithium to the south, and again, they've done quite a bit of development work with the test wells that they've drilled and produced, as well as some of the initial pad work that they've also completed as they move towards building out some commercial facilities at some point here, I believe in 2025, based off their press releases. Living Skies is a privately held company that also has some land title. E3 is an Alberta-based project, again, in relative proximity to both Arizona and the Hub City lands. And then the Lithium Bank lands as well, positioned just to the southeast of us. This was also acquired through a transaction earlier this year, I believe in March. And then the Arizona lands just to the south of our Viewfield property, non-core asset to Arizona, but also acquired as well recently through a press release that they released here just a few weeks ago. Also too, when we look at, upcoming land base that's available, there was a July land sale. That's that turquoise land out more to the east. And then land sales continue to be posted as land is nominated through the public auction efforts from the government. So continues to be quite a bit of activity on the land frontier in Saskatchewan. Again, with the two main companies that are continuing to develop these properties are both Arizona and Hub City or EMP. So when we wrap up the projects, just looking at some of the highlights, we really feel that this is the best Canadian brine resource today in the top Canadian mining jurisdiction, being Saskatchewan. Again, why do we feel it's the best? The clean, high quality brine that we have available in the reservoir. Again, good concentration, upwards of 259 milligrams per liter, no H2S, no oil, minimal organics. Again, those are some key problematic contaminants, especially for DLE, and then even in the downstream refining as we look to convert into a battery grade material. So by not having H2S or oil, we could see a capex OPEX saving, depending on scale of the operation, anywhere from 20 to 40%. So significant operating and cost advantage here, just given the cleanliness and the high quality of the brine. We add in a stable government that, again, is very much promoting and looking for that resource investment to develop the resources here within Saskatchewan, and a very competitive royalty structure at a potash equivalent, which is 3% today. And there's some other incentives as well in there from the provincial government, with some recently announced critical minerals programs for some royalty tax credits that we're looking to take advantage of, as well as a 2-year royalty holiday for any new mine developments once we are able to reach commercial production. We combined, the area and the brine resource that we are able to produce just with a buildable project. Really, we look at all the existing infrastructure that surrounds the property, again, brought to us by that 50-year oil and gas history, roads, rail, water, power, all sort of at the doorstep of this project location. Combine that with flat and unobstructed farmland. There's really not an easier place to try to develop a new mining operation. Also, as well, we got good support from both the provincial government as well as the local municipalities. Mining, oil and gas is a fairly big contributor to the overall economic health of the province. Rapid technical advancing and project de-risking. Again, when we look through our 2024 programs, all the work we committed to and completed, all the drilling, piloting, flow testing, are all going into further de-risking this project, as well as completing that advanced engineering to bring us to a buildable 3,000 ton per year facility. And then to wrap up, just the management team that we have put together, again, leveraging the oil and gas expertise that Rock Resources brings, as well as the brine processing experience that EMP brings, and capital markets experience that EMP brings. We're really a small, dynamic team. We've got good partners around us helping support the project, and as we continue to advance further. Just a quick look at the corporate snapshot here. Again, just talking about percentage real quick. So Rock Resources at 17.1%, Tembo Capital 19.9%, and then some of the original founders at 38%. And then we have some brokers as well at 17%, really leaving a small percentage that's traded actively through some of the retail investors. We did mention, again, Tembo Capital came in at 8.6 million last year on an initial investment. They also did a top up of another 1.2 with the Rock Resource acquisition, just to hold their 19.9% constant. So they continue to support us. Again, Rock Resources continues to be with this project for the long term. They also too elected, instead of a management contract with compensation, have elected to continue to take stock. So they see, again, the value and long-term value that this project can bring. Just a quick brief overview here of our management directors. I'm not going to get into each of the past experiences here, but again, overall, great team from the EMP side. And then when we look at our project technical team side, Rock continues to support us. We've got another good consultant in Brian, who's been helping us since day one here with the EMP side. And then we just brought Darcy Walker over from Rock Resources to full-time EMP. He's our boots in the ground field supervisor down in the project area. So again, overall, a great project technical team helping support all of the field work. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer via email any questions that come through.